think of you.
Oh man, yeah, DC Till Light took about 2 to 3 years to do. So it was all about doing a more club-focused record, you know, not being too aggressive and too crazy. There's a couple tracks that are definitely pushing the sonic limits of what I do normally, but it's all about everything being full frequency. It sort of means 0 hertz to the highest frequency. This time the approach was, you know, just to still always focus on the song, but to take the extra step of making sure that, you know, a third of the songs I could be able to play live and it would work.
When I think of you.
Pretty much on every master I have the digital V2, and either that or control V2. And I like it to basically narrow the lows, so I'll make sure all the low stuff is monoed up to like 160 hertz or so. And maybe I'll do some widening in there, just on the top end. So I'll widen the tops, narrow the bottoms. Every master, I want to make sure that there isn't anything weird with the bass going wide, because I want it to punch. I want the bass to be in the center and be tight in the mix, especially for club music. My general approach is doing small steps and several steps, so it's sort of like applying coats of paint or coats of varnish to something. And by isolating it, I can make those tweaks and it doesn't make the mix collapse. These days, I am primarily software, and I'll track everything vocally. I'll go through, you know, a series of preamps and tube compressors and things like that, but very minimal processing. Sometimes I'll highlight the imperfections too. You know, if there's distortion or the singer sings really loud, I want a setup where I can make that flaw sound good with plugin. So with the Maggie Q4, I use that a lot for pushing the high end on vocals for the air band. It's funny when I hear other producers produce the same vocalist and it sounds so different. Like with Lissie on a lot of our tracks, I like to push her voice a lot and really push that sawdust in the upper octaves, the upper registers of the voice whenever I can. So I think it just to be able to have that unique feature where you can push those extra frequencies in a different way, where you don't really see that being offered in their EQs, is really handy. Yeah, I think with a lot of plugins it can be overwhelming, even with one manufacturer, how many plugins are offered. So I think it has to work quickly and be simple, and maybe sometimes less options, you know, less buttons. Yeah, the SPL Transient Designer, it's a really good kind of Swiss Army knife, even though it's very simple for what it does, and the GUI on that is nice because it's just like, I want a little more attack, I want a little more sustain, and I can throw that on synth arpeggios, typically that's what I'll do, or drums. So maybe a little bit on the kick, make sure things aren't peaking. So percussive things that are the rhythm section in general for the song. To stay objective in the process is definitely difficult when it's sort of a double-edged sword. When you have this much time, there's more time for the songs to incubate and you can step back for a minute. But because you're working for so long on similar material, you're hearing it 500, 600 times, you know, it's hard to be like, is this good? Like, you don't even know. You can't see the forest for the trees. I like to work as quickly as possible and then not hear the record too many times. To me, part of how I knew the songs would be good and that they would hold up and do as well as they have is that I didn't get tired of them and they were able to sort of stay relevant and stay fresh in my mind. You know, a lot of guys will give you tips like say, oh, be original, do your own thing, and I would definitely advocate for carving your own lane. But I think a lot of things are changing now in music too. Like a lot of kids are trying to make the music all about the energy and about how loud they can get it. And I think it's important to focus on the song and work on the songwriting and not just engineering and just carving sounds. So if you can have that ability to write songs and work with other people really well and motivate songwriters and vocalists, you're going to be way ahead of the competition. I would say to also kind of hide your brushstrokes. So take a bunch of different influences, but don't make it apparent where you're drawing your inspiration from. I think it's all about cross-pollinating your interests and your sound and weaving that into your own sound. and making music from a pure place where you're not making it for somebody else, but you're making it for yourself.
When I think of you.
Check out the blog, mpquicktips.com, and the Twitter account at mpquicktips, because there's hundreds of tips on there that can go way more in depth than I can.